The morning sun barely broke through the clouds when 17-year-old Lily Chen stood outside the Riverside Conservatory of Music. Her white cane tapped gently against the stone steps as her mother described the building to her. It was everything Lily had imagined. Tall windows, old brick walls, and somewhere inside the piano that would decide her future. Lily had been blind since the day she was born. The doctors told her parents that she would never see colors, never watch a sunset, never read a book the way other kids did. But what those doctors didn't know was that Lily could see things others couldn't. She saw music in ways that made people stop and listen. She felt rhythms in her heartbeat and heard melodies in the rain. Her mother squeezed her hand as they walked through the heavy wooden doors. The smell hit Lily first. Polished wood, old paper, and something else she couldn't quite name. Maybe it was history. Maybe it was dreams. The hallway echoed with their footsteps, and Lily counted each one, mapping the space in her mind the way she always did. "There are about 20 other students here," her mother whispered. "They all look so serious," Lily smiled. She was used to being different, used to people staring, used to the whispers that followed her everywhere. Today was the annual scholarship audition, and she knew this was her only shot. Her family couldn't afford the tuition at Riverside. This scholarship wasn't just about music for her. It was about proving that she belonged in a world that often forgot people like her existed. They found seats in the waiting area. Lily could hear the other contestants warming up in practice rooms down the hall. Each one sounded good, really good. Some played with speed that seemed impossible. Others had a smoothness that came from years of expensive private lessons. Lily's hands trembled slightly. She had learned piano from YouTube videos and a donated keyboard that had 3 broken keys. Her teacher was an elderly woman from church who charged nothing and gave everything. Then she heard him. Someone was playing Rachmaninoff in one of the practice rooms, and it was technically perfect. Every note landed exactly where it should. The speed was incredible. The precision was like watching a machine. Lily listened carefully, tilting her head the way she did when she was really focusing. The playing was impressive, no doubt about it. But something was missing. She couldn't quite put her finger on what. "That's David Park," someone whispered nearby. "He's already performed at Carnegie Hall twice." "He's only 20. Why is he even here?" another voice asked. "His parents want him to get the Riverside Scholarship for the prestige. You know how it is." Lily felt her stomach tighten. She was competing against people who had already made it, people who had opportunities she could only dream about. For a moment, she wondered if coming here was a mistake. The practice room door opened and footsteps approached. Lily heard someone sit down near them. The smell of expensive cologne drifted over. Her mother shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Did you see the list?" It was a young man's voice, confident, maybe too confident. "Half these people shouldn't even be here." "Come on, David," another voice responded. "Everyone deserves a chance." "A chance? Sure, but let's be realistic. This is Riverside, not some community center." Lily felt eyes on her. She knew that feeling well. She'd been getting those looks her whole life. The white cane leaning against her chair was probably what caught his attention. "Is that girl with the cane actually auditioning?" David's voice was closer now. Lily could tell he was looking right at her. Her mother tensed beside her, about to say something, but Lily touched her arm gently. She'd heard worse. Much worse. A blind girl? "This should be interesting," David continued. His tone wasn't even mean, really. It was dismissive, like she wasn't worth being mean to. Like she was just a curiosity, a story he'd tell later at dinner. "I mean, how do you even read sheet music? Does someone tell you what to play?" The other person with him laughed uncomfortably. "Dude, come on." Lily kept her face calm. She'd learned years ago that reacting only made things worse. Besides, she didn't need to defend herself with words. She'd let her playing do that. She'd been doing it her whole life, proving people wrong without saying a thing. "Lily Chen?" A woman's voice called from the audition room doorway. Lily stood, her cane sweeping in front of her. Her mother stood too, ready to guide her. But Lily shook her head slightly. She wanted to walk in on her own. She needed to. The audition room was massive. Lily could tell by the way sound moved in the space. High ceilings, probably. Hard floors. And there, in the center of it all, she could sense the grand piano. It was like it was calling to her, pulling her forward. "Good morning," a kind voice said. "I'm Professor Mitchell. These are my colleagues, Dr. Foster and Ms. Lin. We'll be your judges today." "Good morning," Lily replied. her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Whenever you're ready, dear," Professor Mitchell said. "Take your time getting comfortable." Lily made her way to the piano. Her fingers found the bench, then traced along the smooth wood of the instrument. A Steinway. She could tell by the feel of it, the weight of the keys under her fingertips as she touched them gently. This was the best piano she'd ever played. Behind her, she heard the door open slightly. Someone was watching from the hallway. Probably David, come to see her fail. She could almost feel his smirk. "I'll be playing Clair de Lune by Debussy," Lily announced. There was a pause. Dr. Foster spoke up. "That's quite an ambitious choice," Lily smiled. "It's my favorite piece." She settled onto the bench, adjusting her position until everything felt right. Her fingers rested on the keys. She took a deep breath. In this moment, it didn't matter that she couldn't see. It didn't matter that David was probably watching, waiting for her to mess up. It didn't matter that her keyboard at home was missing keys, or that she'd learned this piece by listening to it hundreds of times until she could play it in her sleep. All that mattered was the music. Lily had chosen this piece for a reason. Clair de Lune meant moonlight in French. She'd never seen moonlight, never watched it dance on water or filter through trees, but she felt like she understood it anyway. Moonlight was gentle but present, soft but impossible to ignore. It was beauty that existed whether anyone saw it or not. Kind of like her. Her fingers touched the keys and the room held its breath. This was it. This was her moment. And Lily was ready to show them all that sometimes. Not seeing is exactly what helps you see things most clearly. The first note rang out pure and clear, and Lily disappeared into the music. The first notes of Clair de Lune floated through the audition room like whispers. Lily's fingers moved across the keys with a gentleness that made the piano sound like it was breathing. She didn't think about technique or timing. She didn't worry about hitting the right notes. She just played. In her mind, she painted the moonlight she'd never seen. She imagined it the way her mother had described it to her countless times. Soft silver light spilling across dark water, making everything it touched look magical. Each note was a brushstroke. Each chord was a wave of light washing over the room. Professor Mitchell leaned forward in her chair. In 30 years of conducting auditions, she'd heard this piece performed at least 100 times. Students usually picked it because it sounded impressive, or because their teachers told them to. But this was different. This wasn't a performance. This was something else entirely. Dr. Foster, the oldest of the three judges, felt his throat tighten. He'd been a concert pianist himself before arthritis forced him to retire. He'd played in concert halls across the world, heard the greatest pianists of his generation. But sitting here listening to this 17-year-old blind girl, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. He remembered why he'd fallen in love with music in the first place. The melody shifted, growing slightly more intense. Lily's shoulders swayed gently with the rhythm. She wasn't just playing the piano, she was having a conversation with it. The instrument responded to her touch like it understood her, like they were old friends sharing secrets. In the hallway, David stood frozen in the doorway. He'd come to watch her struggle, to confirm what he already believed, that she didn't belong here. But now he couldn't move. His expensive shoes felt glued to the floor. The phone in his hand, which he'd been scrolling through moments ago, hung forgotten at his side. Something was happening in that room that he didn't understand. This girl, this blind girl he'd dismissed so easily, was doing something he'd never been able to do. She was making people feel something real. David had been playing piano since he was 4 years old. His parents had hired the best teachers money could buy. He'd won every competition he entered. Critics called him a prodigy. People lined up to hear him play. But listening to Lily now, he realized something uncomfortable, something that made his chest feel tight and his pride feel hollow. He played piano. She lived it. Back at the piano, Lily was deep in the heart of the piece now, the middle section where the melody builds and builds before finally releasing. Her fingers danced faster but never lost that gentle quality. It was like watching moonlight ripple across water during a gentle breeze. Ms. Lynn, the youngest judge, found tears running down her cheeks. She quickly wiped them away, embarrassed. Judges weren't supposed to cry during auditions. They were supposed to be professional, objective, but how could anyone be objective about this? Lily's mother stood in the back corner of the room, her hand pressed against her mouth. She'd heard her daughter play 1,000 times, in their tiny living room with the second-hand keyboard. At church on Sunday mornings, at the nursing home where Lily volunteered every week, playing for residents who could no longer leave their rooms. But she'd never heard her play like this. Maybe it was the better piano, maybe it was the acoustics of the room, or maybe it was something else. Maybe it was knowing that this moment mattered, that everything Lily had worked for, everything she'd dreamed about, came down to these few minutes. The piece began to slow down, moving into the final section. This was the part that separated good pianists from great ones. The ending of Clair de Lune had to feel like moonlight fading as the sun began to rise, not disappearing completely, but gently making way for a new day. It had to feel like an ending and a beginning at the same time. Lily played each note with perfect patience. She wasn't rushing to finish. She was savoring every moment, every sound. Her face was completely peaceful now, almost like she was meditating. In a way she was. This was her meditation, her prayer, her truth. The final notes hung in the air like stars that refused to fade. Lily held the last chord, letting it ring out until it dissolved into silence so complete you could hear people breathing. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence stretched on, and for a terrible moment Lily wondered if she'd done something wrong. Maybe she'd played it too slowly. Maybe she'd made mistakes she didn't realize. Maybe the judges were trying to figure out how to politely tell her she wasn't good enough. Then Dr. Foster started clapping. It started as a slow clap, but within seconds, all three judges were on their feet. Professor Mitchell was clapping so hard her hands hurt. Ms. Lynn didn't even try to hide her tears anymore. And Dr. Foster, who judged hundreds of auditions without ever breaking protocol, was applauding like he was at a concert. Not a simple scholarship audition. This never happened. Judges didn't applaud during auditions. They took notes. They whispered to each other. They thanked students politely and moved on to the next one. But rules didn't seem to matter right now. In the hallway, David finally moved. He stepped back from the doorway, his heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with excitement and everything to do with shame. He walked quickly down the hall toward the exit, needing air, needing space to process what he'd just heard. The other contestant who'd been with him earlier called after him. "David, where are you going?" "You were supposed to stay for the—" "I need a minute," David said, his voice rough. Back in the audition room, Lily slowly stood up from the piano bench. She was shaking slightly, adrenaline and relief flooding through her body. She'd done it. Whatever happened next, she'd given them everything she had. "That was extraordinary," Professor Mitchell said, her voice thick with emotion. "Truly extraordinary." "In 40 years of teaching," Dr. Foster added, "I've never heard such pure emotion in a piece. You didn't just play Debussy, you understood him." Lily felt tears forming in her own eyes now. She'd spent so much of her life being told what she couldn't do, what she'd never be able to accomplish because of her blindness. Teachers who said she should find a different dream. Relatives who suggested she focus on something more realistic. Even well-meaning friends who worried she'd get hurt chasing something so competitive. But here, in this moment, none of that mattered. "Thank you," Lily whispered. Ms. Lynn walked over and gently took Lily's hand. "No," she said softly. "Thank you. You just reminded all of us why we dedicate our lives to music." As Lily and her mother left the audition room, Dr. Foster pulled out his phone. His hands were still shaking slightly. He opened his camera app and scrolled back to the video he'd recorded during Lily's performance. He never recorded auditions. It wasn't professional. It wasn't fair to other students. But something had told him to hit record this time, and he was glad he'd listened. He watched the video once, then again. The quality wasn't great, just his phone propped on the judge's table. But the audio was clear enough to capture what had just happened. Dr. Foster looked at the video for a long moment. Then he opened his social media account, something he barely used except to share pictures of his grandkids. He uploaded the video and typed out a caption. His finger hovered over the post button. Was this the right thing to do? Would Lily mind? Then he remembered that feeling in his chest while she played, that reminder of why music mattered. People needed to hear this. The world needed to hear this. He pressed post. Within minutes, the first comments started appearing. Within an hour, the video had been shared 50 times. By that evening, as Lily sat at home with her mother celebrating with cheap takeout food, thousands of people around the world were discovering what those three judges had witnessed and everything was about to change. Lily woke up the next morning to her mother's voice calling from the kitchen. There was something different in her tone, excitement mixed with disbelief. She grabbed her white cane and made her way down the hallway, following the smell of coffee and toast. "Honey, you need to hear this," her mother said, her voice shaking slightly. "What's going on?" Lily asked, settling into her chair at the small kitchen table. "Dr. Foster posted a video of your audition yesterday." "Lily, it's everywhere." Lily's stomach dropped. "What do you mean everywhere?" Her mother's fingers tapped quickly on her phone screen. "It has over 100,000 views, and it's still climbing. People are sharing it all over the place." Lily sat very still, trying to process this information. She'd never even been on social media. Her mother had a simple profile, but Lily had always stayed away from it. Too much drama. Too many chances for people to say cruel things from behind their screens. "What are people saying?" Lily asked quietly. Her mother was silent for a moment, scrolling. "They're saying beautiful things, sweetheart. Listen to this one. I've been having the worst week of my life, and this made me cry happy tears for the first time in months. And this one. This is what music is supposed to be." Pure soul, Lily felt her cheeks flush. Strangers were listening to her play. Strangers were moved by something she'd done. It felt surreal, like she was hearing about someone else's life. "There's more," her mother continued. "News websites are picking up the story. One article is titled, 'Blind Teen's Piano Performance Restores Faith in Music.' Another one says, 'This is what true talent looks like.'" By noon, the video had crossed 1 million views. Lily's phone, a special one designed for blind users, wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. Friend requests from people she'd never met. Messages from strangers telling her how her music had touched them. Interview requests from local news stations. It was overwhelming. Wonderful and terrifying at the same time. But there was something else happening online that Lily didn't know about yet. Something her mother had decided not to tell her right away. The video Dr. Foster posted wasn't just of Lily's performance. His phone had been recording when David made his dismissive comment in the waiting area. That part was in the video too, and the internet had noticed. People were angry, really angry. Within hours, internet detectives had figured out who David was. They found his social media accounts, his performance schedule, even his parents' business. The comments flooded in by the thousands. "This guy seriously mocked a blind girl and then got completely shown up. Karma is beautiful. Imagine being so insecure that you have to put others down. She has more talent in her pinky finger than you have in your whole body. David Park thinks he's so special because he played at Carnegie Hall. Technique without heart is just noise." Some comments were harsher, much harsher. People dug up his old performances and criticized everything about them. They called him names. They said he should apologize. Some even said he should never be allowed to perform again. David saw every single comment. He sat in his expensive apartment, staring at his phone screen, watching his reputation crumble in real time. His Instagram, which usually got comments praising his skill, was now filled with people telling him he'd forgotten what music was really about. His first instinct was to defend himself, to explain that they didn't understand, to argue that he'd worked hard for everything he had. But every time he tried to type something, he remembered Lily's performance. He remembered standing in that doorway, unable to move, realizing that everything he thought he knew about music was wrong. For 3 days, David didn't leave his apartment. He ignored calls from his parents. He skipped a rehearsal for the first time in his life. He just sat at his piano trying to play, but every note sounded empty now. On the 4th day, he watched Lily's video again. Really watched it. He counted how many times he'd seen it now, 17 times. Each time he heard something new, a subtle emotion in a particular phrase, the way she let certain notes breathe, the absolute fearlessness in her playing. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He played the simple lullaby his grandmother used to sing to him when he was little. Just a basic melody, nothing impressive. His grandmother had taught it to him before his parents enrolled him in serious lessons, before competitions and performances became his entire life. His fingers stumbled over the notes. He'd forgotten parts of it, but as he played, something inside his chest cracked open. He realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd played something just because he wanted to, just because it made him feel something. That's when he knew what he had to do. David opened his laptop and started typing. He wrote and deleted, started over, deleted again. It took him 2 hours to write 3 paragraphs. Finally, he posted it. I owe everyone, especially Lily Chen, an apology. The video that's going around shows me at my worst, arrogant, dismissive, and completely wrong. I made a cruel comment about someone I didn't know, based on prejudices I didn't even realize I had. Watching Lily play was humbling in a way I can't fully express. She reminded me that music isn't about prestige or perfect technique. It's about truth. It's about connecting with something bigger than yourself. I've spent the last few days facing some hard truths about who I've become. I started playing piano because I loved it, but somewhere along the way I forgot that love. I became obsessed with being the best instead of being authentic. Lily, if you ever read this, I'm truly sorry. You didn't just play beautifully that day. You taught everyone in that room what real musicianship looks like. I hope I can learn from your example. He hit post before he could change his mind. The response was mixed. Some people appreciated his honesty. Others said he was only apologizing because he got caught. Some said it was too little, too late. But David didn't care about the comments anymore. He'd said what he needed to say. Meanwhile, Lily's life had become a whirlwind. Local news stations wanted interviews. Music magazines wanted to feature her story. The conservatory had already called to tell her she'd won the scholarship. The decision had been unanimous. But the message that meant the most to her came from Dr. Foster himself. He called her personally to apologize for posting the video without permission, but also to tell her something important. Lily, he said, his kind voice warm through the phone. In my 40 years of teaching, I've seen a lot of talented students, but talent isn't rare. What's rare is what you have, the ability to make people feel something real. Don't ever lose that. Don't let anyone teach it out of you. That evening, Lily sat at her keyboard at home, the one with 3 broken keys, and played Clair de Lune again. This time she wasn't playing for judges or for a scholarship. She wasn't playing for the millions of people who'd watched her video. She was playing for herself, because that's what she'd always done. That's why she'd fallen in love with music in the first place. Her mother stood in the doorway listening. She pulled out her phone and took a picture not of Lily but of the moment, the kitchen light casting shadows, the old keyboard that had seen better days, her daughter, lost in the music, exactly where she belonged. Some moments, she thought, were too precious not to capture. The internet had made Lily famous overnight. But fame was just noise. What mattered was that she'd stayed true to herself. And somehow, in doing that, she'd reminded thousands of people, including one arrogant young pianist, what music was really supposed to be about. The video kept climbing. 5 million views. Then 10. Then 20. But Lily was already thinking about what piece she'd learn next. 3 weeks had passed since the video went viral, and Lily was still adjusting to her new reality. She'd done interviews with local news stations, received hundreds of messages from aspiring musicians, and even gotten a call from a recording studio in Los Angeles. But the most unexpected message came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Her mother read the email out loud, her voice uncertain. It's from David Park. He's asking if you'd be willing to meet him. Not for publicity, he says. Just to talk. Lily was quiet for a long moment. She'd read David's public apology. Well, her mother had read it to her. It had seemed genuine enough, but words were easy. Anyone could type out an apology when the whole world was watching. What do you think? Her mother asked. I don't know, Lily admitted. Part of me wants to ignore it, but another part is curious, I guess. You don't owe him anything, sweetheart. You know that, right? I know. Lily traced her finger along the edge of her cane, thinking. But maybe meeting him isn't about what I owe him. Maybe it's about what I want to understand. 2 days later, Lily found herself in a small music shop downtown. The place smelled like old wood and sheet music, with the faint sound of someone practicing violin in a back room. Her mother had offered to come, but Lily had said no. This was something she needed to do alone. She heard the shop door open, followed by hesitant footsteps. Lily? David's voice was different than she remembered. Quieter, less confident. I'm here, she said, sitting at a small table near the window. David sat down across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Lily could hear him breathing, nervous and unsteady. She could sense the tension radiating off him. "Thank you for meeting me," he finally said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," Lily replied honestly. "I wouldn't have blamed you." David paused. "I've been trying to figure out what to say for days. I wrote like 20 different versions of this conversation in my head. And none of them felt right. So I guess I'll just be honest." He took a breath. "What I said that day was cruel and wrong, but it wasn't just a stupid comment, it showed who I'd become. Someone so caught up in myself that I couldn't see anything else." Lily tilted her head, listening not just to his words but to the emotion behind them. "Why did you want to meet? You already apologized publicly." "Because a public apology felt hollow, like I was doing it for everyone watching instead of for you." David's voice cracked slightly. "I watched your performance 17 times, and each time I realized how far I'd drifted from why I started playing in the first place." "Why did you start?" Lily asked. David was quiet for a moment. "My grandmother. She raised me for the first 5 years of my life while my parents worked. She'd sing these old Korean lullabies to me, and I loved them so much that I wanted to play them myself. She bought me a little toy piano for my 4th birthday. Do you still play those lullabies?" "I hadn't in years. Not until I watched your video." David's voice grew softer. "After I saw you play, I sat at my piano and tried to play one of those songs my grandmother taught me, and I couldn't remember half of it. I'd spent so many years learning Rachmaninoff and Chopin that I'd forgotten the first music I ever loved." Lily felt something shift in her understanding of him. He wasn't just arrogant. He was lost. "What happened to you?" she asked gently. "Competition. Pressure. My parents are good people, but they saw my talent and pushed me hard. Really hard. By the time I was 8, I was practicing 6 hours a day. At 10, I did my first competition. At 12, I played at Carnegie Hall for the first time." David paused. "Everyone kept telling me I was special, that I was going to be one of the greats. And somewhere in all that, I stopped playing music and started performing it. Do you know what I mean?" Lily nodded. "Like you became a machine instead of a musician." "Exactly. And the worst part is I was good at being that machine. I won competitions, got into the best schools, people praised my technique, but I can't remember the last time playing made me feel anything." "Until you heard me play," Lily said. "Until I heard you play," David confirmed. "You reminded me that music is supposed to make you feel something, it's supposed to mean something." They sat in silence for a moment. The violin practice in the back room had stopped. Someone in the shop was testing out a guitar, plucking strings one at a time. "Can I ask you something?" David said. "Sure." "How do you do it? How do you play with so much emotion every single time?" Lily smiled softly. "I don't know if I can explain it exactly, but I think part of it is that I don't see music as separate from life. Every piece tells a story, expresses a feeling. When I play Clair de Lune, I'm not thinking about the notes. I'm thinking about moonlight, even though I've never seen it. I'm thinking about beauty that exists whether anyone witnesses it or not." "That's beautiful," David said quietly. "Music is the one place where my blindness doesn't matter," Lily continued. "Actually, sometimes I think it helps. I'm not distracted by anything visual. I just feel the music completely." David nodded, then realized she couldn't see him. "I understand," he said instead. "Do you want to know something funny?" Lily asked. "What?" "I was terrified that day at the audition. I heard you play Rachmaninoff, and I thought I had no chance. You were so technically perfect. But technique isn't everything." "No," Lily agreed. "But it's not nothing either. You have skills I'll probably never have. Your finger speed, your precision, that takes years of dedication." David looked at her surprised. "You're being generous." "I'm being honest. You have something I don't, and I have something you lost. Maybe we could both learn from each other." "You'd want to do that? After everything?" Lily shrugged. "You made a mistake. You apologized. And more importantly, you seem like you actually meant it. People deserve Second chances, don't they? David felt his throat tighten with emotion. He'd expected anger, maybe coldness. He hadn't expected grace. Could I play something for you? He asked suddenly. Here? The shop owner knows me. He won't mind. David stood up and walked to an old upright piano in the corner of the shop. He sat down, his hands hovering over the keys. Then he played the lullaby his grandmother had taught him all those years ago. It was simple, just a basic melody. No impressive runs or complicated chords, but it was honest. It was real. It was him. When he finished, Lily was smiling. That's the first time I've heard you play, she said. What do you mean? You heard me at the audition. No, Lily corrected gently. At the audition, I heard David Park, the performer. Just now I heard David, the musician. There's a difference. David sat at the piano, staring at his hands. She was right. That was the first time in years he'd played something from his heart instead of from his training. Would you play something? He asked. Lily stood up, using her cane to navigate to the piano. She sat down next to him on the bench. Her fingers found the keys and she played a simple jazz improvisation, something she made up on the spot. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive with feeling. When she finished, David shook his head in wonder. How did you do that? Just make that up right now? Music isn't about perfection, Lily said. It's about expression. You can't be afraid of making mistakes. I've spent my whole life being afraid of making mistakes. I know, Lily said softly. I could hear it in your playing that day. They talked for another hour, sharing stories about music, about pressure, about what it meant to be an artist versus being a performer. The shop owner eventually came over to tell them he was closing soon, surprised to see the two viral sensations sitting together at his old piano. As they prepared to leave, David had one more question. Would you maybe want to do this again? Meet up and just play together? No pressure, no performance. Just two musicians trying to remember why they fell in love with music in the first place. Lily thought about it for a moment, then nodded. I'd like that, but only if you promise to keep playing those lullabies your grandmother taught you. Deal, David said, and for the first time in weeks he felt something like hope. As Lily left the music shop that day, she realized something important. Forgiveness wasn't about letting someone off the hook. It was about refusing to let their mistakes define your own story. David had been cruel, yes, but he was also human, and humans could change. Sometimes the most beautiful music came from unexpected places. 6 months had changed everything. Lily and David had started meeting every week at that same music shop. At first, it was awkward. Two people from completely different worlds trying to find common ground. But slowly, something unexpected happened. They became friends. Real friends. David taught Lily advanced techniques she'd never learned. How to use the pedals more effectively. Ways to add complexity to her playing without losing emotion. Lily, in turn, reminded David how to feel music again. She taught him to stop thinking so much and just let the music flow through him. You're still counting in your head, she'd say during their practice sessions. I can hear it. How can you possibly hear that? David would ask, frustrated but laughing. Because music has a heartbeat. When you count, you're following a clock. When you feel, you're following your heart. They sound different. Their friendship surprised everyone, especially the internet. Videos of them playing together started appearing online. Nothing official. Just clips that the music shop owner would record and share. People loved watching them. The comment sections were filled with messages about second chances, forgiveness, and the power of music to bring people together. But neither Lily nor David paid much attention to the online buzz anymore. They were too busy learning from each other. Then came the phone call that would change everything again. Professor Mitchell from the Riverside Conservatory called Lily personally. We're organizing a benefit concert, she explained. It's to raise money for a new accessibility program, scholarships and resources for students with disabilities who want to study music. And we want you to be the headline performer. Lily's heart raced. Me, headline? You inspired this entire program, Lily. It wouldn't exist without you. We've already raised enough money to help 5 students in the first year alone. Professor Mitchell paused. And we'd like David to perform with you, a duet. If you're both comfortable with that. Lily didn't hesitate. I'll ask him. When she told David about the concert, he went quiet for a long moment. You want me to perform with you? After everything? It's not about the past anymore, Lily said simply. It's about what we've both become. David felt tears forming in his eyes. 6 months ago, he'd been the arrogant prodigy who thought he had everything figured out. Now he was sitting in a small music shop, feeling honored to be asked to play alongside someone he'd once dismissed. "I'd love to," he said. "What should we play?" That's when Lily had an idea. What if we create something new? Something that's both of us. We could arrange a piece together, blend our styles. Over the next month, they worked on their arrangement. They took classical pieces and added modern elements. They wove in the Korean lullaby David's grandmother had taught him and merged it with Clair de Lune. It was ambitious, maybe too ambitious. But it was theirs. They practiced until their fingers ached. David learned to play with more feeling, letting mistakes happen if they came from genuine emotion. Lily pushed herself technically, incorporating the advanced techniques David had taught her. "This is really hard," Lily admitted one evening, frustrated after hitting the wrong keys for the 10th time. "Good," David said. "Easy doesn't make us better." "When did you become the wise one?" Lily teased. "I learned from the best," David replied, and he meant it. The night of the benefit concert arrived. The Riverside Conservatory's concert hall was packed with over 2,000 people. News crews were set up in the back. The video that had started everything would bring in a huge online audience too. The concert was being live-streamed. Backstage, Lily's hands were shaking. Her mother tried to calm her, but nothing worked. This was different from the audition. That had been 3 judges in a room. This was thousands of people expecting something special. David found her in the green room, pacing with her cane. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" "I'm terrified," Lily admitted. "What if I mess up? What if I forget the arrangement?" "Then we mess up together," David said. "Remember what you taught me? Music isn't about perfection. It's about truth." Lily took a deep breath. "You're using my own words against me. Is it working?" "A little." They walked onto stage together. The applause was deafening. Lily felt the heat of the stage lights. She couldn't see them, but she could feel their warmth. She could sense the size of the audience by the way sound moved in the space. 2 grand pianos had been positioned on stage, facing each other. David guided Lily to one, then took his seat at the other. Professor Mitchell stepped up to the microphone. 6 months ago, a young woman reminded us all what music is truly about. Tonight, she and David Park will perform an original arrangement they created together. A piece that represents not just technical skill or emotional depth alone, but both working in harmony. The audience fell silent. Lily and David looked at each other across the pianos. Well, David looked, Lily sensed, but somehow they connected in that moment. A silent acknowledgement that they were in this together. David started. The Korean lullaby from his childhood, played softly on his piano. Simple and honest, just like that day in the music shop. Then Lily joined in, her piano adding the opening notes of Clair de Lune, weaving around David's melody like moonlight dancing through trees. The 2 pieces shouldn't have worked together. One was a simple folk song. The other was a complex classical masterpiece. But somehow in their hands, the melodies merged into something entirely new. David's technical precision gave the piece structure and power. Lily's emotional depth gave it soul and meaning. Together, they created something neither could have achieved alone. The arrangement built slowly, both pianos working together, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in counterpoint. There were moments when one piano would drop away, letting the other shine. Then they'd come back together, stronger than before. David felt something he'd never experienced in all his years of performing. He wasn't thinking about the notes anymore. He wasn't worried about impressing anyone. He was just playing, truly playing for the first time in years. Lily was lost in the music completely. She could feel David across from her, could sense when he was about to shift into a new section. They'd practiced this arrangement 100 times, but tonight it felt different. Tonight it felt alive. The audience sat in stunned silence, afraid to move, afraid to break the spell. As the piece reached its climax, both pianos played together in perfect synchronization. The Korean lullaby and Clair de Lune had become one. Different melodies, different origins, but unified in their beauty. Then came the ending. Soft and gentle, like a conversation between old friends. The notes grew quieter and quieter until there was just one final chord played together, that hung in the air for a perfect moment before fading into silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the entire concert hall exploded with applause. People were on their feet, some crying, all clapping until their hands hurt. The standing ovation lasted 7 full minutes. Lily and David stood and bowed. David reached across and found Lily's hand, squeezing it gently. They'd done it together. Backstage afterward, they were swarmed by reporters, well-wishers, and fellow musicians. But the moment Lily treasured most came from an elderly woman who approached her quietly. "I'm David's grandmother," the woman said in accented English. "Thank you for reminding my grandson why he plays. I heard my lullaby in that music tonight and it made me cry happy tears." Lily felt her own tears forming. "He's an amazing musician." "He's a better person now," the grandmother said softly. "Because of you." The video of their performance went viral even faster than Lily's audition had. Within a week, it had 50 million views. Music schools around the world started reaching out, wanting to create their own accessibility programs. Lily received scholarship offers from conservatories she'd only dreamed about, but the numbers didn't matter as much as the messages. Thousands of people wrote to say the performance had inspired them. Students with disabilities said they'd been afraid to pursue music, but now they felt brave enough to try. Musicians who'd lost their passion said they'd remembered why they fell in love with music in the first place. One comment on the video particularly stood out. It simply said, "This is proof that the best music comes from open hearts, not perfect technique." David and Lily continued meeting at the music shop every week. Sometimes they practiced. Sometimes they just talked. The shop owner eventually gave them a key and told them they were welcome any time. "You two are good for business," he joked. Ever since the viral videos, everyone wants to come to the shop where the magic happens. A year after that first audition, Lily started her first semester at Riverside Conservatory with a full scholarship. David, who'd taken a break from performing to rediscover his love for music, decided to study music education. He wanted to teach the next generation of musicians the lessons Lily had taught him. On the anniversary of their first meeting, they returned to that music shop one more time. They sat at the old upright piano, not the fancy concert grands, just that worn-out piano that had witnessed their first honest conversation. David played his grandmother's lullaby. Lily added her own improvisation, and together, they made music not for cameras or crowds or critics, but simply because it made them happy. Because in the end, that's what music was always supposed to be about. The internet had made them famous. But their friendship had made them better musicians, better people, and most importantly, had reminded them both of a simple truth. Sometimes the most beautiful harmonies come from the most unexpected places.